Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we explore a story of transformation that is as raw as it is inspiring, the tale of a man who once ruled the streets with fear until an unexpected encounter with a little girl shifted his entire world. His life had been forged in violence and survival. Every scar on his skin and every shadow in his eyes told a story of battles fought, loyalty betrayed, and a kingdom of asphalt and alleyways where he held unquestioned power. To most people, he was untouchable, a name spoken in whispers, a presence felt long before he appeared. Yet, beneath the surface of dominance, there was a man carrying invisible chains, bound to a life he never truly chose. The exterior of his life was harsh and unyielding. His world was built on concrete streets cracked under the weight of endless footsteps and echoing sirens. The smell of exhaust and the distant hum of late-night traffic formed the background to his every move. His attire was more than clothing, it was armor. A heavy leather jacket, worn but strong, spoke of countless nights spent patrolling territory, dealing in power, and defending his reign. Every stride he took was measured, every glance sharp, giving the impression of a man who missed nothing. People stepped aside when he approached, not because they wanted to, but because they had to. His name carried the same weight as the silence that followed him. Inside, however, the interior was a different story, though brief and often unseen. Behind closed doors, the walls of his small apartment were stained by time, the air thick with the scent of cigarettes and quiet regrets. A single flickering light in the kitchen illuminated a life stripped of warmth. His furniture was functional but sparse, a couch that had seen better days, a table scattered with loose change and folded bills, and a bed that seemed too big for a man who never truly slept. It was a space that reflected not just poverty of wealth, but poverty of peace. In terms of performance, his life was a masterclass in control and precision. On the streets, every movement mattered. He navigated confrontations with a mix of intimidation and calculated restraint. His mind worked like an engine tuned for survival, analyzing threats, anticipating betrayals, and ensuring his authority was never questioned. For years, he performed the role of leader, protector, and enforcer with unshakable skill. But it was also a performance of a man wearing a mask, because deep inside, there was still a human heart beating against the cold metal of his reputation. The safety features in his life were entirely self-constructed. He trusted no one fully, because trust could be the crack in the armor that let the enemy strike. He had an intricate network of lookouts, safe houses, and escape routes, all designed to ensure his survival. His instincts were razor-sharp, he could sense danger long before it arrived, reading the air like a storm-seasoned fisherman. Yet, these safety measures also kept him imprisoned, cutting him off from genuine connection and binding him to the very life he feared leaving. No one could hurt him physically, but emotionally, he had built walls so high that sunlight rarely found a way in. The unique selling points of his story emerged the day he met her, a little girl who changed everything. She appeared one afternoon in the midst of a confrontation, a child of no more than 6, her clothes worn but her eyes impossibly bright. While others ran from him, she walked toward him, clutching a small, battered doll. She looked up at him without fear and simply said, "Uncle." That single word disarmed him more than any weapon ever could. It cut through years of hardness and reached the part of him that had been silent for decades. He didn't know her, and she didn't know his history, but in her innocence, she saw him as something more than a threat. That moment planted a seed of change in soil he thought was barren. From that point forward, his life's performance shifted. The streets still knew his name, but now there was a different undertone. He found himself drawn to the child's neighborhood, quietly watching from a distance to make sure she was safe. Her simple acts of kindness, waving at him, offering him a piece of candy, smiling without suspicion, began to thaw the frost in his chest. The transformation wasn't immediate, years of habit fought against the change. But slowly, he began stepping back from the more destructive parts of his world. Deals became less ruthless, confrontations less violent. He even found himself fixing a broken swing in a park where children played, an act that surprised even him. The price of change, however, was steep. Leaving the life he had built meant making enemies of former allies. It meant risking vulnerability in a world where weakness could be fatal. He paid with sleepless nights, tense encounters, and the constant fear that his past would catch up to him before his future could take root. Yet, the value was immeasurable. He discovered moments of peace in the simplest things, sharing a laugh, hearing the unguarded joy of children, or feeling the unfamiliar warmth of being trusted. He started to realize that his worth didn't come from control or fear, but from the ability to protect without harm. In conclusion, his journey is proof that even the hardest hearts can be softened by unexpected kindness. He ruled the streets with fear for years, yet it was a single word from a small voice that began his redemption. The man who had been a shadow in every alley became a quiet guardian, trading power for peace. His story reminds us that sometimes the key to unlocking a better life is found in the most unlikely hands, and that redemption is always possible, even for those who have spent a lifetime running from it.